We're in Shelby, North Carolina today with Debbie and Harold Metcalf and Idaho. And Idaho has a very interesting story that I can't wait for you guys to hear. Debbie, tell us a little bit about Idaho and her journey.
Idaho came to us about 27 years ago, and she was stolen after we had her for 9 years.
Wow.
And we didn't know anything about horse theft or people stealing horses, so like most people, we thought she just got out.
Right.
Even though we'd never had a horse out before. And in the course of a few hours, we discovered that our fence had been cut, and the harsh truth of what really does still go on and didn't stop with the old West days. Horse theft. It's alive and well, and it's everywhere.
Gosh, I cannot imagine that. You must have been terrified. What did you do?
Well, the first things we did was cry.
I'm sure.
Cry and cry and cry. But then, you know, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you call law enforcement. And we thought that we were going to get a lot of help because you see it on TV. You call them and they solve the case. But that's usually not the case with horses.
Right.
And when law enforcement left here, we knew that if we were going to find her, we were going to have to be the ones that did it.
Wow, what did you do?
Well, the first thing we did, because the Cleveland County Fair was in town, and it was an election year, all the candidates were over there. We printed up flyers and we went to the fair. Of course, we had horses there too. The kids were showing them at the fair. And we just blanketed the fair and we hit the candidate, we hit the sheriff, and we would not let up. You know, I can wrap myself around somebody's leg and they can't shake me off.
Right.
And when your horse is gone and you don't know where to turn, you are desperate.
Yeah, I'm sure you would feel
So,
desperate and helpless.
We got a little more help because of that, probably. But if it hadn't have been election year, I think we would have been totally, you know, left out in the cold.
Wow. How long did it take you to find her?
Well, it took us 51 weeks.
Wow.
Our thief, because of the work that we did, though, our thief was caught in 6 months.
Very good.
And he was caught stealing more horses
Oh, no.
in another state. And, you know, a stolen trailer that he was loading the horses on came back to Shelby, North Carolina. And we had been kind of fixtures in the sheriff's office here. And with every tip that we got, we'd walk in or we'd call it in and say, please put this in our file. And because we did this so much and said this man's name so much, that when he got caught for this other crime, it went ding, ding, ding.
So you kind of knew who had gotten her?
We knew that there was probably a 75% chance we had been told the whole truth by somebody in the horse industry. They always know what's going on.
Sure.
And this particular person had hoodooed this man out of some money. So rather calling to help us, he called to get the other guy back.
Right. Right. That's usually the way it works.
So you had to kind of measure that. Is it true or not true? But it made the most sense. And
Right.
he pretty much laid out everything that happened.
Gosh, that's wild. So you actually solved the case for the sheriff's department in a manner of speaking.
We did solve it. And then once it was solved, we used the information that they gathered to find her.
And then where was she?
She was in Etowah, Tennessee.
Okay.
And she had been there. She had been sold 5 times within 6 months.
Wow.
And she ended up with a 10-year-old girl
Right.
who was riding her and showing her in the racking horse shows. And now we have a world-class reserve champion
Wow.
that left here as a trail horse.
Gosh, that's amazing.
So, you know, the sad thing is, we knew as soon as we heard that a 10-year-old girl was riding her that something had changed, because we would have never put our children on this horse.
Right.
She was all spitfire and vinegar. She was a man's horse. She was Harold's horse. He was the only one that ever rode her. And for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, she's never kicked, bit, bugged. But when you get on her, the power is there.
Right.
And it's very intimidating.
Right.
If you know, she looks pretty calm now. And, you know, she is 28 now. And she's had her heyday, it's come and gone. But when
She says, no, it hasn't.
The North Carolina Horse Council was established in 1972. We are a nonprofit organization that puts every dollar received back into supporting and working for our members. We are a volunteer organization that is supported by people just like you, with passion and energy.
Hi, I'm Sue Gray, Executive Director of the North Carolina Horse Council, and I'd like to share with you today a few reasons of why I would like you to join us. We are your voice. We work on rules and regulations that help you use and enjoy your horses each and every day. There's power in numbers. We have over 306,000 horses in North Carolina, making us 8th in the nation. We also have over 53,000 households owning horses with multiple owners within those households. And we are a $2 billion industry adding to the economics of the state of North Carolina. Power in numbers. We ask you that we can go and help to protect those privileges as we move forward. But we do more than that. We also do grants, and we help to preserve land and protect our trails, and we support youth groups and other equine associations throughout the state.
We welcome you to join us and be part of the largest and most active horse council in America.
As Miss Rodeo Virginia 2012, I had the opportunity to travel the country riding on many different horses and in many different saddles. But nothing compared to coming home and riding in uniquely my world-class saddlery saddle. From its unique dog flower tooling to the custom stirrups made just for me, the saddle fits me and my horses perfectly. So whether I'm out running barrels or in a parade, the saddle is both durable and beautiful. It can get the job done and still look good while doing it. I look forward to riding in my world-class saddlery for many years to come.
We're back now with Debbie Metcalf, and we're going to talk a little bit about all the things that have happened since she got Idaho back and the business that's grown out of it. So you kind of formed a net posse with Stolen Horse International, didn't you?
We did. Actually, it formed us.
Okay.
When we were looking for Idaho, we had so many people come to help us on the internet because we were the first ones that did that ever sent out an alert for a horse on the internet. And this whole group of people started coming to help us and saying, if you help us, we'll help you, because our horses have been stolen too. And we're going, wow. We thought we were the only ones in the world that have had this done.
Right.
And it just, from there, people started coming together and networking, and it stayed that way for 51 weeks. And then when Idaho was found, we thought we were done and we could go back and be normal, but it never happened.
So you've kind of become like the guy on America's Most Wanted for the equine industry, which is a great thing.
Yes, pretty much. I've been introduced as John Walsh of the horse industry a lot.
Definitely.
And I used to kind of put my head down and go, oh, I'm so embarrassed. But not anymore, because over the years, I mean, I've been doing this for 16 years now.
Right.
And at some point in time, I sat back and went, I was reading a magazine article and I went, oh, they're talking about me. And then it hit me that I am that person.
Yeah.
And I didn't intend to be that person.
But what would we do without you? I mean, because there's no resource, there's no place to go for help.
No, there's not. There's been some people that try, but they, you got to live this job, and we do. My husband and I, my kids have too, have lived helping other people for 16 years unofficially, since 2003 officially. When I finally said, oh, what the heck.
Right.
I'm not going to escape this, so I quit my day job and started Stolen Horse International as a nonprofit.
And it has just grown by leaps and bounds since then. I'm sure your website is incredible with all the information and stuff that's out there on that.
It keeps growing every year, and we need help. If anybody would like to help us, everybody's a volunteer.
Right.
So even us, we're volunteers.
Right.
And there's just so much information, and I had somebody this week tell me that, I went to your website and there's just so much stuff. And I said, I know, it's huge, and I would like to take some of it off and make it smaller, but every piece of information on there is important.
True, and you never know which piece that person's going to need, so it's really great that it's all there.
We try to put it all there. We tried to condense it. What you're seeing is the condensed site.
I'm sure.
From the one that was before it, believe it or not.
Right. Well, I know that you were telling me with Idaho that you've done a lot of things to protect her from ever being stolen again, and not necessarily protect her from being stolen, because that's really hard to keep from happening, but if she was, making her more identifiable. What are some of those things that you've done?
Well, one thing that we learned right away when Idaho was gone, every time we went to a horse auction, somebody asked us what kind of ID did she have, and our response was, ID? Horses don't have ID. But yeah, they do. But see, that was part of the lack of education back then.
Right.
You know, even though we were involved in trail riding and all kinds of things, we never had been told or exposed to this information. And honestly, I was pretty mad about that.
Yeah.
Because none of this would have happened if I'd just known one thing.
Right.
And that one thing I try to teach people still about. But with her, ID became very important. The first thing we did was brand her, and we did it ourselves. And we did 6 horses. We messed up a couple. We figured out what we did wrong, and we went back and did it right. So all our horses have freeze brands.
Right.
And then we thought, okay, we've got it solved. But guess what? As we go further along, we find out that freeze brands are hard to trace back to the owner.
Right.
If they're out of state.
Right.
So then we thought, okay, what can we do next? Microchips.
Just like you'd microchip your dog.
Just like you'd microchip your dog. So we got us some microchips, and we microchipped our own horses. And then we thought, well, we did it. Why can't other people? And at that time, the only way you could get a microchip was through a vet.
Right.
And so we researched the laws and found out that a person can microchip their own horse. And so we went to one of the microchip companies with the plan of starting a microchip your own horse program. And that's where it got started. So today, if you are going to microchip a horse and you can find it online where you can purchase it,
Right.
it's because of us.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So folks, you can buy microchips and do it yourself, and it's very, very simple, and you can probably get the information on where to get them on Debbie's website.
Actually, we do have them on our website. We have different companies, different packages, because what we're trying to do is we're not just trying to sell you a microchip.
Right.
We're trying to give you an education about the microchip and the scanners at the same time. We're not governed by any particular company that's just doing sales pitches on us. We do our own research.
Now, do you have a registry set up for the microchips?
We do.
Because that's something like KC does for dogs, so, but that would be great for the horse industry. So that's
We have a Net Posse identification program.
Okay.
And if you get a microchip through us, and these are fundraisers for us, if you get a microchip for us, you're automatically included in that registry for that chip.
Right.
And our registry, you can register not just a microchip, but your freeze brand, pictures of your horse. You know, it's your own little data place right there on the website. And of course, if the horse ever goes missing, no matter how it's missing, it goes right over to the other side, and you save the listing fee. We don't charge you a listing fee if your horse is in the NIP registry, and then we can go straight out with the alerts.
Well, that's a great place too for a horse owner to be able to store that information so that they can access it very quickly and easily when the time comes, and they don't have to search through 900 old hard drives on their computer to find it.
Well, see, that was one of the problems when Idaho was stolen. We knew we had tons of pictures of her,
Right.
but it took 3 kids 3 hours to find what we came up with.
Right.
And we have a picture of the first flyer, and there's so much wrong with that flyer.
Yeah.
Things that really shouldn't help. But that's all we had, and that's another thing that, you know, through our organization, we've done the research already. We've worked with law enforcement, we've worked with marketing people to come up with that flyer that you see, so that when that flyer is hanging in a public place, it draws your attention to it.
Right.
Where you might walk by another one sitting right beside it.
Right.
Plus, we have the right information on it, so that if your horse from North Carolina ends up in California, that it can be traced back to you in North Carolina.
That's really, really neat. And also, if it's found, how to get it back is on your website too, which would be another complicated process in itself. Because if they bought that horse, they feel like they own it. So then it's a whole different battle.
And it's a different battle by state too. Each state has their own laws. Sometimes it goes county by county. Sometimes it just really depends on who's involved in law enforcement. Sometimes it's who's involved, who has the horse.
Right.
I mean, we've seen it all.
I'm sure. Well, how many horses do you feel like you guys have helped people recover now?
If you count the ones that we prevented, thousands.
Yeah, I'm sure, without a
Thousands.
doubt. And what case comes to mind as the most difficult one that you remember offhand?
You know, I try not to think about that too much, because it gets kind of emotional. Oh, here I go. It gets kind of emotional for me. But I think sometimes some of the victims that we work closer with, and I get to know better, I become more vested in that, especially when those victims are given back to help more people.
Right.
Because a lot of our victims will list their horses, and some even say, "Let me know when you find it." And some will come back and go, "Well, I'm looking for my horse. How can I help look for other people's horses too?"
Right.
And so those people, those stand out. And I guess the one that stands out the most is Mojito. Mojito's carbon copy. The horse is from Missouri. I know he's out there. He's a black and white spotted Paso. We've had tips on him, and we get close, but we can't get him.
Right.
And I've worked with the owner, and she's been in the booth with me. She's come from all the way from Missouri to Tennessee to North Carolina to other states to help me. She pays it forward to other victims.
Right.
So that one, and probably the 2 polo ponies that were stolen with their truck, their trailer, and $60,000 worth of tack.
Wow.
The truck was later found in Texas. And we thought we would be able to go back with the leads on that. But the police in Texas were great. The police in Florida were not so great.
Right.
And so we lost the lead. So those are, an older case and a newer case. But because I'm so close to the victims, I'm more vested in that.
I can tell you guys about a personal experience that I had with Debbie that she probably doesn't even know I was involved in. I live in Little Middlesex, North Carolina, which is a thriving metropolis of about 800 people, maybe on a good day. And a lady in the neighborhood had a very pregnant horse that she woke up one morning and it was gone, completely gone. The fence wasn't down. There were no tracks. There was no evidence of the horse walking away out in the country in a neighborhood where she knew everybody and had lived there all of her life. And we got in touch with Debbie, and she suggested the things that we do, which was really put a lot of heat in the very local community. Flyers, Craigslist, the law enforcement, all the horse owners in the area that we knew, we took flyers to their barns. And the girl kind of thought she knew who took it because that person had tried to buy it and she didn't want to sell her. So because we turned up the heat, that horse turned up 3 days later at a construction site tied to a fence post. So if it hadn't been for you, though, with that great advice, that horse would have never been found.
Well, that's good to hear.
So,
That's
you
good
know,
to
I mean,
hear.
it's just amazing that the timing and the knowledge that you were able to give us within just a couple of hours that morning really made a difference, and she got her horse back.
Well, it does. And, that's not the first horse we've had tied to a post.
Yeah.
We had a mini in South Carolina that was in like a little cemetery plot with a little fence. We had one out in Nebraska that was dropped off in a cemetery. We've had a North Carolina horse that came back with new shoes and a new halter. And up closer to you, we had one that was had a bath, and
Yeah.
so there's lots of if you act fast, and that's what we're trying to get people to do. Some of the social media is great.
Right.
And we do use that as tools for what we do. But that's just a small part of what we do.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to get people to know that. They look at our Facebook pages and they say, and we don't have hundreds of thousands of connections there. But 16 years doing what I do, that's the value to coming to us, because I have connections with all kinds of people and organizations that I call on as needed.
Right.
If this horse is a particular breed or has a particular discipline. And I've got one right now that y'all have not even seen that we're working with behind the scenes.
Right.
We do that too.
Right.
And we've had people take horses back just because I pick up the phone and say, "Hello, this is Debbie Metcalf from Stolen Horse International, and we've had a report filed, and I would like to talk to you about that."
Right.
And lots of times people do not we don't put names out there.
Right.
You know that. We always stay within the law, but sometimes we can turn the heat up so quick
Yeah.
that people know who they are.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the timing is just like if your child gets taken, that first 24 hours is very critical. And if that should ever happen to you, and I certainly hope it never does, do contact Stolen Horse International and find out what to do. What are some tips you can give our viewers to keep their horses from being stolen?
Well, the first thing they need to do is ID.
Right.
Yeah, and this isn't just from theft. You know, we work with stolen horses, missing horses, lost, found, horses lost in disasters. So the first thing that we can tell everybody is some type of ID.
Right.
You pick it. What works for you? You know, I have my favorites, but I like to see a combo. And you've seen our horses have
Yes.
it. We have something that travels with our horse that you can't see, and then we have ID on our horses that you can see.
Right.
They play on each other.
Right.
There is no one type of ID that's perfect. The second thing is, once you get your ID, just like if you have an alarm in your house, what do you have down by the driveway? You have a big sign that says we have an alarm,
Right.
and it's hooked up to something that's going to get you
Right.
if you break in my house. So get a sign. You can make it. We have them on netposse.com, but put it up. Notify people, because what you're really telling them is that I'm not in the dark.
Right.
I know that these things are going on out there, and I'm watching you.
Right.
So when they come by my pasture, and I just told you earlier after we put our signs up, no more problems, because we have the signs up. We've got our neighbors watching everything. If a truck or a car stops by our pasture, we've got one neighbor that will confront them.
Yeah, that's good.
And our other neighbors will take pictures with their cell phones. You know, they get the tags. They're all instructed to do this. And, you know, that's the second thing. And then you just be aware of all the conditions. We've got a list of resources on the website. Watch people coming and going. If somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, beautiful horse," and starts petting it, you know, we're all willing to think that they just like our horses. And most of us will just tell them everything about the horse. But you might be telling them too much.
Right.
So always, even if a person comes on your property to sell something, or whatever the purpose is, go out with your phone and take a picture of the tag. Take a picture of them.
That's a good idea too.
Do you think they're going to come back?
Right.
If you've got them on record. And I will tell people, this is why I'm doing it when they ask.
Right. Well, that's a very good tip. When people come to visit me now, I think I'm going to say, don't touch him, he'll bite you or kick you. That's probably a good idea.
Well, I do know that. I don't know if these people had anything to do with it or not, but a few weeks before Idaho was stolen, we had somebody come up to our upper gate, and they had a child with them. And don't think people don't use their own children as decoys. And we told them everything about our horses. We were
Right.
so proud that, you know, they're our
Sure.
kids. And later, after she was gone, I had to wonder
Right.
if that was something that I shouldn't have done. So I tell people, you know, just be wary of anybody.
Another good thing in the horse community is to talk to your friends and other horse owners too, because a lot of times these folks travel in groups and they hit neighborhoods and areas, you know, and then they're long gone. So it's always good to be aware of what's going on in the community as well.
Well, you know, in our case, the person who actually took our horse lives 50 miles away.
Right.
And our horse was baited every day with feed, so I don't think he drove over here every day
Right.
And put the feed in the pasture to get her to stand where he wanted her to stand. So we had somebody local to help out with that.
Right.
And we think we know who that is, but we can't say.
Sure. Sure. Well, I think probably in most of the cases, it's probably somebody that you've come in contact with and that you've had some dealing with and you don't realize it.
In our case, we had dealings with, and we realized it. We just didn't. We just didn't realize what, you know, connections could be.
Right. And if a person goes out and their horse is gone, then what are the first things that they should do?
If their horses are gone, the first thing you do is call law enforcement.
Okay.
And you file a report. And a lot of times in these cases, you can't tell if, you know, if a horse just got out or if somebody took it. And the people that take horses are good at making it look that way. Or they're good at making it look like a fence was broken and they just got out.
Right.
And then when the law enforcement officers come out there, they think the horse just got out.
Right. And that's their first assumption.
That's their first assumption. Unless you've got a cut fence, a cut lock on a gate, something that really clearly tells you that something's been tampered with, lots of times you don't even know
Right.
what happened to your horse. So I still say report it as stolen. Hey, if it's not stolen, that's even better. But if we have a police criminal case number, then we can go out with a criminal case stolen horse report, you know, with an alert for that. Otherwise, we treat it as missing, lost. And sometimes we work with civil suits as well. If
Right.
we can find a case that if the horse gets back, it will help,
Right.
you know, get them in court and help them.
So Debbie, you got a grant from the Horse Council also to help you with this project. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that?
Yes, we were really fortunate that the North Carolina Horse Council saw that our program that we're trying to do is worthwhile. And what we really want to do is have 1 to 2 people in each county signed up to get our alerts for North Carolina horses that are missing, lost, stolen, and tacking trailers, so that we can send that information right to them, and they agree to get the information, print the flyer, and put them out in their communities, because we are really trying to get, you know, the internet's great,
Right,
but everybody's not there.
right.
So we're trying to get those flyers that we have on every one of our alerts out into the communities. You know, it's great to pass it along, but print, and
Right.
put it up. So we really need help from the North Carolina Horse Council and the people in North Carolina to assign representatives to every county.
Okay, and if you guys want to volunteer for any of that, you can contact the North Carolina Horse Council at www.nchorseCouncil.com, or you can contact me, Rose, at CarolinaHoofbeats.com.
This episode of Carolina Hoofbeats TV was made possible in part by funding received from the North Carolina Horse Council, a North Carolina nonprofit corporation dedicated to representing and furthering the common interest of the entire equine industry in all 100 counties of North Carolina. Carolina Hoofbeats is brought to you in part by Newcomb Quarter Horses. Newcomb Quarter Horses with over 40 years experience. Find out how we can help you today. NewcombQuarterHorses.net. And by World Class Saddlery, custom saddles, repairs, custom tack, and personal leather items. Find out more at worldclasssaddlery.com. And also by Carolina Hoofbeats Magazine, a free publication about the horse industry in North Carolina. Catch up on the latest issue at carolinahoofbeats.com.
Sitting high in the saddle, nothing else matters. My feet in the stirrups, I'm so happy. There's nothing like the sound